Hello there and welcome. My name is Stephanie and this is the Mindfulness Project. This video is specifically about brain and heart coherence. So thank you for joining me. I hope this blows your mind as much as it blew mine when it finally clicked in how profound this one tool is. Quite literally, if every single human, actually we don't even need every single human, but when more of us live in this state of coherence, more of the time we have the potential to change everything. And this is individually and collectively. So let's start with, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. So over the past 4+ years, things have certainly changed. And what I see now is a whole lot of people seeing the enemy. But unfortunately, they're getting stuck watching the enemy instead of taking the next step and comprehending why the enemy is even there to begin with. And it's because humans are the most powerful of them all. It's why they had to be so deceptive of it, because if we knew who we really are, those parasites wouldn't exist. And so this is sort of the name of the game now, is to wake up and realize who you are. And when you do, you'll see who actually holds the power. And let me tell you, it's not the parasites on the world stage. You hold the power. This is all a battle for your mind. And at the root of it all is the battle for consciousness, right? If they hijack your mind, there's no way you can figure out who you really are. If they keep you in the lower states of consciousness, which is exactly what the name of their game is to keep you below the veil of consciousness so you can't figure out who you are, it's power over you. That's when you live in those lower states, there's no way that you can come up to the higher states, the higher frequencies, the higher energy, and tune back into the truth of who you really are. So let's start with how your mind works, because let me tell you, these psychopaths know you better than you know you. And what you see going down, this has been going down for lifetimes. This is nothing new. It's been going down for lifetimes, the slow hijacking of the minds of the masses. Now, this has been speeding up quite a bit in the past 100 or so years, but let's get back to your mind, because again, at the root of it all, what you think is what you will see, right? So the television programming is there to program your mind to create what they want to see. And never mind, let's also add to that, your subconscious mind processes 40 million bits of information per second. So like I said, they know you. There's a whole lot more going on than you can even be conscious of. It's happening so quickly, and they're accessing your subconscious mind where they're planting what they want to see. You are literally helping them to create an upside down version of reality. Well, you're actually living in that reality because that's what you're focused on. So what you focus on is what you will see. Okay, so your subconscious mind, it records everything. It's like a tape recording of your entire life. Now, the problem with that is that most people are living from their subconscious programmed mind 95 to 99% of the time. So if you're living by your programmed mind that doesn't have the ability to think new thoughts 95 to 99% of the time, then you're just creating the same reality. So the name of this game is to become conscious of your thoughts, conscious of your emotions, because you are speaking to the field of energy that you live in 24/7, and it's mirroring your energy in motion, your emotions. So when you live in those lower states of consciousness, you're going to be creating the reality that mirrors those emotions, right? Shame, guilt. This is where the matrix keeps you. In order to break out of the matrix, number one, you got to take back your mind and live in these higher states of emotions. Change your perspective. The way you change your perspective is getting to know yourself and how powerful your mind is, and focusing it on something that feels good, something that you do want to create, something that takes you into those higher states, those higher vibrations, those, bliss. But you can't do that while you're watching the Matrix. You can't do that. I mean, it would take a very powerful mind to be able to watch what's going down on the world stage and feel love or peace or enlightenment. So, take your mind back and start creating something new. So it controls 95% of our lives. So again, the key is to live in the conscious mind where you're thinking new thoughts, feeling these higher states of emotions. We'll get into heart brain coherence because that's literally how you tune into your superpower, your intuition. It's how you figure out what to do next or what you're here to do. It's how you come up with new ideas. We'll get into that. So this is how powerful your subconscious mind is. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't know the difference between real and fake. It doesn't know when you are watching a horror movie, your subconscious mind doesn't know that you're just watching a movie. It's taking it in as though it's real. Why do you think that all the movies that are, that Hollywood is creating is foretelling like this doom gloom? Because they're hijacking your mind to help them create this doom and gloom, this end day, whatever, it's garbage. It's all garbage. And once you comprehend how powerful your mind is and that it's creating everything you see, you stop insulting yourself and insulting your soul and watching this garbage, right? You don't even know if it's real anyway. Whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. You create your reality. Look up the double slit experiment. The easiest one I found to sort of wrap your mind around it is, you'll find it on YouTube, Dr. Quantum double slit experiment. It's a little cartoon. It'll blow your mind once you actually comprehend that you are the observer collapsing the waveform and creating your reality. Comprehend that nothing you see is real. Matter in the strictest construct of the word does not exist. It's there because your mind expects it to be there. Okay, so the real epidemic is stress. Okay, stress. What is stress? Stress is what you're thinking about, right? So if you focus on stuff that you don't want to see, you're going to feel stress. Let's just look at like the leading causes of death, heart disease and cancer. Well, how do we get heart disease and cancer? It's stress. Okay? Stress is at the root cause of over 90% of doctor visits. But what is stress? Stress is what you are thinking. It's how you're perceiving the world. This is why mindfulness has the potential to change everything. Over 90% of doctor visits. You know the minds of the masses has been hijacked when we're living in a reality where our mind is killing us. You want to know why? Because this is your autonomic nervous system, and when you shift into a stress thought, and again, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and not real. So when you're watching the governmente to govern your mind, the people who govern the minds of the masses, you're going to feel stress. And what happens is you shut down all the systems that aren't required to fight or flight. Your body is so perfect that it shuts down to conserve energy, to get out of there, to fight. It shuts everything down that is not needed to fight, including your cognition. So most people are living, especially nowadays, in a state of stress. And when you live in this state, you're turning off your immune system. Parasympathetic nervous system, this is when you are resting and digesting. However, if you learn to live in a state of coherence, what happens is you are in perfect balance between these your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system. You're literally mindfully managing your autonomic nervous system into perfect balance with this one simple technique. Bruce Lipton, if you haven't studied Bruce Lipton, I definitely highly suggest him. He is definitely a game changer. He used to teach at a university in the United States until he started doing work with stem cells, which led to epigenetics and him discovering that our thoughts and our emotions determine our biology, whether positive or negative. So again, when you're watching that garbage on TV, it's controlling your autonomic nervous system for you. It's literally making you sick just by watching it. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. So simple again, right? Again, quantum reality, I have found that it just makes everything make sense. Everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies. Your thoughts and emotions create your reality. Your emotions and the quality of your emotions will determine the quality of your physical reality. Take back your mind. Intentionally feel your energy in motion, your emotions, and you will create a different reality. There's no other way. The field is responding to your energy. It's reflecting it back to you. So, a couple of the benefits of living in a state of coherence. It's pretty profound. It's also considered the ultimate physiological state that you can be in, where all of the organs in your body are also in coherence. Your immune system is operating optimally. Your immune system is operating optimally. You increase your cognition. You can tune into your intuition on demand, as Greg Braden states here. And if you haven't studied Greg Braden, another one I highly suggest. Here's the thing. It also creates more DHEA, which is also known as the youth hormone. It lengthens your telomeres. If you're not familiar with telomeres are basically an indicator of your aging. So as you age, the telomeres shorten. When you live in a state of coherence, you are lengthening your telomeres. You are literally lengthening your life. Drop in anxiety, drop in depression, improvement in sleep. Like, this is all just by taking your mind back, going back to your breath, and deliberately focusing your mind to be in higher states of consciousness. So appreciation, love, gratitude. I always say love or above. This is where you want to live more of the time. This is a pretty good graphic, but it's aimed more at businesses, because here's the thing. When you live in a state of coherence, you also, your field of energy, your biofield, the field of energy around your body, also brings others into coherence. So here's how I sort of simplify it. So when you live in a state of coherence, this is when you are literally healing your body. When you live in a state of coherence, this is when you have the ability to help others heal. So you have the ability to bring others into coherence. So we're creating social coherence. Now, when more people live in coherence, we literally shift the entire quantum field into coherence. So the science of how you heal yourself, the science of how you help heal others, and the science of how we literally change the world, all with this one technique. Just a couple of facts here about Brain Coherence. By the way, the HeartMath Institute has a plethora of research on their website. You can go there and check them out. This one tool, I say it's beneficial to every single human on the planet, but their research has focused on, people with brain injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, different things like that you can find research papers on. There's also some really interesting experiments that they have conducted. So I mentioned, for example, that you have the ability to bring others into coherence. That was an experiment conducted by the HeartMath Institute. As well, another really cool one that I love. They did an experiment where they took one person who didn't know anything about coherence, and they took another person who did know about coherence, and they said to both of them, here's 3 vials of DNA. I want you to, with the power of your mind, to unwind this DNA this much, unwind the second DNA this much, and leave the third DNA untouched. Now, the person who didn't know anything about coherence, the DNA did not change. The person who was in coherence, the DNA responded accordingly. This is the power of our minds. Just look at the placebo effect, for example. That's the power of your mind. What you believe is what you will see. Now, Brain Coherence is just a tool where you can actually see on a screen when you are in a state of coherence. So I'll explain a little bit more about that. So this here is a device. It measures your heart rate variance. So your heart rate variance is the time in between heartbeats, and that time changes based on your thoughts and emotions. Now, when you live again in these higher states, this is when your body goes into coherence. So it starts with your breath. Now, I have a recording here of me doing the coherence. Just mute it here. So this is just measuring my pulse right now. This is if you need to, you can follow this to breathe in and out. Now, what I always suggest, because that subconscious mind is very, very powerful. Like if you start to listen, you'll notice it's the busy voice in your head that doesn't shut up. It just keeps going. You want to start to decide to tell it. You want to start to control it. You want to tell it to shh. So what I suggest here is counting 5 in and 5 out, and tell your subconscious busy mind that its only job is to count 5 in, 5 out. Now, you might find that it's difficult when you're starting, and that's fine. You know what? Just getting started. The more you do it, the easier it will become. And you won't have to listen to it on and on and on. I remember when I first started doing this work, and metacognition is becoming aware of the thoughts in your mind that you're thinking, right? So start to pay attention to blah, 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 right? I remember actually saying out loud, like, shut the fuck up. It just wouldn't stop. Well, this is what mindfulness is. It's telling it what to do instead of it telling you what to do. You're going to start to say, nah, I'm running the show now. This is my reality. I'm creating it. I want to see something new, so I'm going to do the work and start reprogramming my mind. You can decode your reality, see why you are creating what you are creating, reprogram your mind to create something new. So this is the HRV, the heart rate variance. This is what it looks like on a screen. You can see it doesn't take a practitioner to be able to see how nice and coherent this is, and it's smooth, and this is tracking the coherence over time. So green is obviously coherence, 100%. When you change your mind, you can literally see, I can always tell, I'll be like, what did you just think about? And, somebody thought of their whatever. And you can see it drop down right away. And then instantly you can switch back into a state of coherence. These tools are used widely with paramedics and police officers, because when you feel that stress, your body stays in that state. Depending on the severity of it, it could be days after. It'll stay in that sympathetic nervous system. So you want to bring it back into alignment as soon as possible, because remember, this is making you sick. This will be perfect timing here. So this is your sympathetic, the dark blue represents your sympathetic nervous system. This medium blue represents your parasympathetic nervous system. And the bars are showing you where I am. So this is the balance in between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So when you live in a state of coherence, and you see how it jiggled a little bit there, because you can see I was thinking to myself, well, I should show this screen. So you can see I changed my mind a little bit, and then I shifted right back into coherence. So there's different levels of coherence here. And what else is there to tell you about this? Well, this is your thoughts and emotions on a screen, really. Now there's different techniques when it comes to mindfulness and creating your reality deliberately, but this is where you want to be as often as you can, obviously. I mean, the benefits are definitely, you can see them. So let's take a second and look. This is what not being in coherence looks like. So you can see sort of all over the place. And I just put this here to show you the difference. So this, I probably likely took this with somebody. I like to do before and after. So you've basically got your, your base reading here. This is what your heart rate variance looks like. This is, your mind all over the place. And this is what it looks like when you are mindfully bringing yourself into coherence. It's always nice to see on a screen. Now, at the root of it all, this is the evolution of consciousness. And what we're seeing going down right now, this has happened many times, but this will be the time when we remember who we are. And this is exactly what they fear most. So if you're going to be a glitch in the system, your first step is to take back your mind. Take it back, because it was hijacked. So now you want to reprogram it. You were programmed. The percentage of people who have complex childhood trauma is unreal. If you do your research, the statistics are unbelievable. Childhood complex trauma is at the root reason why so many people do not become or do what they came here to do. Because we were programmed to live in fear, right? We're programmed to believe that we're not good enough, that we're not this enough, that we're not pretty enough, that we're not skinny enough, that we're not smart enough, that we whatever. It's all matrix programming. It's bullshit. This is why you take back your mind. The first step in this game is to take back your mind so you can remember and tune back into who you really are. Brain Coherence is what can help you to get there, to tune back into your base frequency, which is love. Now, there are two main players in this video game reality, which I won't get into in this game, but just comprehend that there are players in this game who don't have the ability to live in those higher states of consciousness. And they're here to keep you living below the veil of consciousness with them. So as you move through this work, you will start to be able to feel the energy of other people. This is the quantum version of this reality. Like it says in, with the Heart Math Institute, we're always in people's energetic fields. Well, you have the ability to feel that energy, which will help you navigate this energetic holographic video game reality in your power, right? You'll know before you have to go down that road and learn a lesson. The reality is there are a lot of people who aren't here for the benefit of all. But once you tune back into yourself and do the work, the further you go along your road, you realize that none of it matters. It's all you, all that's within you. So the key is to plug yourself back into consciousness, which is all that ever has been, all that ever will be. This is who you really are. You are a piece of consciousness. I like to describe it like the trillions of cells in your body. We are all the individual cells in the body of consciousness. We're all connected by a field of energy. And currently, we've got some parasites in this body. But stop feeding the parasites and they won't exist. The game ends when there's no more players playing their game. And we're all doing what we came here to do. This is what's going down right now. This is the evolution of consciousness. And when one piece of the hologram changes, it changes the whole hologram. So when you do the work and you change, that travels through this field of energy and helps others to do the same. We're like, think of it as being the immune system in this body of consciousness, right? Lighting up because you're remembering and doing the work and remembering who you are and living in those higher states, right? We're igniting the immune system in this body of consciousness. And as the 100th monkey effect shows, there's going to be a tipping point. There's going to be a tipping point when it hits everybody and everybody remembers. So this is what we're going for. So you doing the work shifts this entire hologram. And when more of us are doing the work, the entire thing changes. So on that note, I would like to show this video. Now, I want to point out, this is John Hagelin. He's a quantum physicist. But what I'd like to point out beforehand is he's going to mention meditation. But I'd like to add this. When you live in a state of coherence, as the Heart Math Institute shows, you have the ability to bring others into coherence, right? So when he's referring to meditation, I liken that to the science of living in a state of coherence. This is pretty profound. One of my favorite videos of all time.
I'm going to show you very quickly some of the early research. This is the first study, and I won't go into it in great detail except to say that this experiment was performed in the Middle East during the peak of the Lebanon War in the early 1980s. It was hypothesized, based on many previous smaller experiments, that if enough people were collectively experiencing and stimulating this fundamental, powerful field of peace within, that there would be a radiated influence of peace that would affect the behavior of people throughout society. People would wake up in the morning and they'd decide, hey, I don't think I'm going to kill anybody today. What a novel thought. That, with some expanded comprehension and less narrowly cramped, narrowly self-centered, acutely stressed vision, that those desperate acts of terrorism simply don't really have a fertile field to fall on. So this chart shows a dotted line going up and down, which is the rise and fall on a daily basis of the number of people who were meditating as a group in Jerusalem. About 1,000 people on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. And the solid line represents progress towards peace in the war in neighboring Lebanon. And even before the benefit of statistical analysis, you can almost see from the raw data that progress towards peace, measured by reduced war deaths, reduced war injuries, reduced number of bombs, that progress towards peace goes up and down almost in lockstep with the number of people who were meditating as a group, radiating this influence of inner peace to become outer peace. When this was subject to mathematical analysis, the likelihood that this is simply due to some fluke, due to chance, is less than 1 part in 10,000. To be able to say something with this certainty that group meditation prevented war, that is a really remarkable finding. When this was published in the Yale University Journal of Conflict Resolution, it ignited a firestorm. First of all, it took 2 years to publish the paper because the editors reviewed it and reviewed it and reviewed it, and they said in the end, this paper is unassailable. This paper was performed at a standard of scientific rigor far beyond that required for publication in any journal. So they had to publish it, but they published it with a letter. And the letter in the journal said, the results of this experiment are so unexpected that 1,000 people could influence the behavior of 1,000,000, that they urged other scientists to go out and repeat the study. And that's exactly what happened over the next 2.25 years. 7 other scientific collaborations went out and repeated the study, training and assembling groups of meditators, practicing transcendental meditation. And in every one of these experiments during this 2.25-year period, there was a marked reduction in violence and war. 80% drop in war deaths and war-related injuries in comparison to all the other days during the 2.25 years where there were no meditating groups, when the situation grew slightly worse, as this chart shows, in comparison to 7 highly positive bars showing highly statistically significant progress towards peace in every single experiment. If you put these together, the likelihood that this reduction of war was again simply due to chance and not due to the meditating groups was less than 1 part in 10 million. There is far more evidence that group meditation can turn off war like a light switch than there is evidence that aspirin reduces headache pain, for example. It is a scientific fact.
So, there you go. It is a scientific fact that 1,000 people can influence 1,000,000. Now, if you study the work of David Hawkins, that number is relatively smaller. From my perspective, there's already enough of us who see the parasites. Now it's time for us to unite and do this work together intentionally. And that's the other key part to this work. I say, like, your intentions are like your magic wand. So use them intentionally. The name of this game is to live in higher states of consciousness. The key to the game, so statistically speaking, prior to 2020, on average, 70% of your thoughts are negative, especially if you haven't done the work. So on average, a minimum of 70% of a person's thoughts are negative. Now, 2024, imagine what that statistic would be at now. Now, there's enough of us to live in these higher states of consciousness that we can counterbalance the ones living down here. One person living in a state of love counterbalances 750,000 people who are living below the veil of consciousness. So, we are in a game of energy, really. Your thoughts and your emotions are constantly contributing to this field of energy. The question is what level of reality are you living in? What are you creating? Are you creating more of the same? Or are you starting to take back your mind and doing the work and living in these higher states of consciousness, not just for your sake, but for the sake of all? To become more conscious is the greatest gift anyone can give to the world. Moreover, in a ripple effect, the gift comes back to its source. So, I encourage you to take back your mind that was deliberately hijacked, expand your perception of possibility, and start living from your conscious mind, intentionally creating your reality, focusing on things that you do want to see instead of the doom and gloom that the psychopaths want you to create. Well, I think that's all for this video. I thank you for joining me, especially if you've made it this far. And if you'd like to connect, please feel free to do so. Like I said, I believe that every single human can benefit from this work. I'll be posting this on my website, so please continue reading on. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch. My name is Stephanie, and this is the Mindfulness Project. Be love.